Hey all, this is Lynn with Paper Life, and I wanted to show you today how I made this little junk journal. It hangs up on my tree. I put one of the bulb pins in it. On this one I put a grommet, but I probably won't be doing that this year. I made this a year ago, and I don't know, it's just a cute little keepsake. You could write little things and make little pockets, and so that's what we're going to be doing today. If you guys are on Paper Lifers Facebook group, I made a printable, which is going to be available hopefully by the time I get this video up. What I did was I went ahead and saved time by cutting out all the pages that were in the printable, and I kind of skipped ahead in some of it just so you didn't have to watch me do every last little piece. So let's get started. I already wrote down my measurements so that I did not mess up. Well, okay, to limit my ability to mess up, because it is still very capable that I do it. So the cover itself is what we're going to work on first, and all I did was I took a piece of cardstock. You could use something thicker if you wanted to. I just didn't see a need to use anything thicker, so I'm going to use some cardstock. So we don't need my yarn up here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to cut this. It's going to be a 6 3/4 wide and 4 1/4 tall. So right now I'm going to go ahead and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this 4 1/4 tall. Now what I did for this project was I coffee stained some 4x6 index cards. That's what I'm using my measurements off of. 4 1/4, okay. You obviously do not have to use the index cards. The index cards do make it a little thicker. So using something like just paper to back it on may be more what you want to do. You know how I am, do whatever it is you want to do. So I'm cutting this so completely wrong. Okay, do not listen to anything I just did. I'm going to cut this just because I've already cut some out of here. I just have to rearrange how I'm cutting it on here. So I'm going to do my 6 3/4 first. I guess that may have worked, but I wasn't sure about it. All right. I so need a new one of these mats. I love this mat and I use it all the time. So we need 4 1/4 this way. But I won't lie, I have been looking at new mats, and if I could ever talk myself into spending the money on another one, maybe they're not that expensive. I don't know. Whatever, you guys know how I am. Okay, so hopefully if I didn't mess this up, this is going to be the base for our cover. So I'm just going to fold this in half real quick. And I'm going to double check myself to make sure I didn't completely mess up. Nope, if I did mess up, it's going to be fixable from this point. So in our kit that I put up, there is, I think there's 8 of these because our book that I'm doing today is actually 6 pages, so I put a couple in there. These are meant to go like on the index card. Now I did make them oversized. I don't remember really what I did them at. About 4 1/4 tall by probably about 6 1/4 wide or long. And the reason for that was just to give us a little extra wiggle room in case someone's printer, you know, if you have to print with a margin, sometimes it makes them bigger or smaller. Sometimes it makes it smaller. So we have some of these to use, and I also made another one that is, I don't even know. Let's see. Almost 5 inches tall by almost 7.5 inches wide. And this was to make a cover with if you all wanted to do your cover out of paper. Now in the one I showed you here, I actually used some fabric. The white is fabric. But sometimes paper is a little easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to use a glue stick today. And that's because I got a brayer the other day and I love this sucker. And it seems to give it a much better bond. You could also use tacky glue. You know, Fabri-Tac is a permanent glue that works really great. If you're worried about how it's going to adhere, or you know, how greatly it bonded to each other, you can sew around the edges if you want to. And move that out of my way. I'm going to flip those. Oh my goodness, guys, I am so shaky today. I don't even know why. Yeah, I would seriously recommend the brayer especially once you get to the point that you have a lot of your more basic. This wouldn't have been something, would not have been one of my first purchases. However, at this point, I am really glad I have it. And all I'm going to do is basically whack off our corners like how we do covers. Kind of, sort of, mostly. Like so. I hate that step of it. I'm always afraid I'm going to cut too much, and I usually end up not cutting enough. But it's one of those fearful, like, oh no, if I get to this step and I cut too much, how am I going to fix it? Which you can. Don't ask. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know why you guys watch me do these. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to fold up our edges for our cover. Yep, that's what we're making, a cover. Forgot that for a moment. It's kind of the nice thing about working with the paper opposed to fabric is that you can fold it and crease it and kind of make sure everything's going the way you want it before you start gluing. Okay, that looked good enough, so I'm gonna put some glue stick on both sides because that's how we're doing it today. I'm just gonna push these down and in place. Kind of fuss with my corners a little bit if I need to. Yeah, because you guys have all seen me use my glue stick as a brayer a lot. Because all you're really trying to do is make sure that it's pressed down really nice and consistently across there. But with adhesives, they actually work better with having some heat applied to them. So when you bray over it, it causes a little bit of friction. Okay, probably way more information than we all needed this morning. So I'm going to kind of create my crease again. Make sure I got that there. In my journal from last year, I used lace for my closure. I think I'm going to use some ribbon today. I don't necessarily know why, besides I want to. So all I'm doing is cutting off a length. I don't even know how long this is. Let's see. That's about 12 inches. No, hello, that was about 24 inches. I think that is way more than what we need. So let's see, let's do 12 inches and maybe 6. So we're gonna put 18 inches on here. It's probably still a little bit more than what we need, but I would rather have more than not enough. Believe another change I'm gonna do this year. Last year when I did this, I had just gotten my eyelet machine. Drew a blank on what the name of the brand is at this current moment, but so I was kind of putting eyelets in everything. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and skip that part. I don't know how much it really added. I'm gonna take some tacky glue and I'm gonna make a little squiggle line all the way across because this is where I'm gonna put my ribbon. I'm just kind of trying to line that up and hoping that I get it sort of in the middle of both the length of ribbon. Okay, you guys are gonna have the hardest time seeing this ribbon since it's almost clear. I'll show you all here in just a minute. So I'm trying to make sure that my ribbon is about halfway between the top and bottom and from side to side, and that my ribbon is glued down about halfway in the book. I don't know if that made any sense at all. Okay, so just kind of push that down. My intentions was to use another one of these that were actually to cover the index card to put in this middle here. So let's see. If our first one was 6 3/4, let's cut this one down to, oh, I don't know. How much of a space do we want around the sides, guys? Let's do 6 inches. We'll take, no, because that would be 3/4 off. Let's cut this 6 1/4 long. That'll make it a 1/2 inch, leaving a 1/4 overhang on each side. That's what we're gonna do. Let's go with that. Okay, so the width of our cover was 4 1/4, so this is actually now going to be 3 3/4 if I figured up my math right, because we're removing a 1/2 inch. Let's hope that's right. If not, we'll just cut a little bit more and wing it somewhere else. All right, let's go ahead and get that out of my way. So yeah, that doesn't look too bad. It could have been a little bit bigger. When you guys are doing this, I would recommend probably doing 6 1/2 long and 4 inches tall. That way you're only taking a 1/4 inch off, if that made any sense at all. Because I think I made mine a little, I mean, it just barely fits in there. But if I would have lined it up any worse, then it probably wouldn't have covered. So I'm just gluing my inside cover on where I want it, or where it wants to be, because, you know, it has a mind of its own. And I'm just going to press it down to make sure it has a nice strong fix there. Okay, now we're gonna set our cover to the side. I did go ahead and cheat and make some of my index cards ahead of time, so you didn't have to sit here and watch me make every single one of them. But we're going to make another one together, and then we're going to work on some pockets and stuff. So I'm going to use this paper. Grab an index card. Now mine have the lined on one side and the solid on the opposite. So I'm gluing. You're going to glue, 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 glue. I did this backwards. It would probably be a whole lot smarter if you glued your index card instead of your paper to cover it, but you know, I do things backwards all the time. So since I'm making a massive mess, we're gonna flip it over like that. This is gonna be so messy, guys. All right. Now again, if you don't want to sew around your edges, if you're concerned about it coming up, what I would do is use the tacky glue. If you wanted, just adds that little extra security. So one of the reasons I liked my pattern paper being a little bit bigger than my index card is I can always trim it down. If you guys aren't a member of our Facebook group, you can just do this with regular scrapbook paper if you wanted. That's what I made mine with last year. I'm actually in the middle of making one where I use my Country Christmas digital, doing it the same way. I think that one will be cute as well. I don't know, these are just a cute, easy, either use them for a gift, put them on your Christmas tree, write in them. I put 6 pages in there. I don't know why, that was just the number I did last year. But this year I gave it the excuse that you could do it for like 12 days of Christmas and write something in there each day, which I am not good about at all. So once that would be done, see all my edges got a good bind to them. I'm just gonna fold it in half. All right, and ta-da, here is what my booklet would look like. Now, if you notice somewhere, I put little corner tucks. This has a little belly band. And in the freebie in our group, you had, oh goodness gracious, you had the pieces to cover on the index card, but I also included some strips that could be used for belly bands if you wanted. I also used some bigger ones that could be used for pockets. So let's go ahead and take one of these and see what we can create. I don't want one of my lined ones. Let's do this one. I'm pretty obsessed with this, just so you know. So one of the things I find that's helpful, because I like to distress my pages, but I want to glue it down first, is one, I'm going to go through here and distress across the top and the bottom. Since I can't ever cut a straight line, I prefer to cut mine larger, put them on the paper, and then, you know, go from there on how I want to do it, on the length that I need. So all I'm going to do is distress across the top and the bottom. I'm going to leave the sides alone, because I'm going to glue this down and then trim off my excess, and then I'll distress all the way around it. One of the things I like to do, I know you guys like my junk mail, is lay down my piece that I want to glue in, and then all I'm going to do is kind of distress on both sides of it, because now it shows me where to glue it. That way I'm not getting a bunch of glue on the sides that then my ink will not adhere to. So I'm going to do that on both sides, like that. This is the Tombow liquid glue. I'm really stingy with this glue, but it works great for putting a really small fine bead. So I'm going to put one on both sides. Take my band, hopefully without putting glue all over myself. And I'm just going to lay it across where I had it marked before. Now once this dries, I'll just flip it over, trim that little excess off, and then you are good to go. I didn't worry about gluing in the middle because I'm going to sew my signatures in. So it's going to hold that in place once I sew it. That's why I didn't worry about that. Let's see, let's grab another one. And for this one, I'll show you how I did the pocket, which is more or less the same way you guys do a pocket any other time. But why not do it again? Because that's what we're going to do. We're going to distress because I like distressing. I don't like distressing, but I like the fact it covers. It hides my mistakes. And it gives everything a kind of like vintage look. Oh, if you guys are wondering, I'm using Vintage Photo today. It's kind of my go-to, the one I almost always use. So that one is gluing. Go over here and glue. Jeez Louise, why is it in my way? Same thing as before, I'm just going to kind of line this up with where I'm going to want this pocket to be. Maybe. Line it up, and now I'm going to take my distress tool and I'm just going to distress the edges, and then that gives me a glue line, glue template line. That's what we're going to go with. That sounds fancy. So I put my line of glue around. I'm just going to put my pocket page back down there. And I'm just going to push it down. Hopefully get it to get a really nice little bead and a seal on there. Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. You know, hope springs eternal, right? Okay, we're going to let that dry. We're going to set it to the side. And we'll be back to it here in a moment. Let's change pages and go back to our cover. I want to create my crease on this inside, which I find this to be kind of the most tricky part because sometimes my paper wants to move a little bit. All right, another thing that I put in with our little freebie is some little sayings. It's Merry and Bright, Winter Wonderland, it's a little moose, Let It Snow. I think I'm gonna go with the moose though. I don't know why I feel a need for a moose. So let's do the moose. I'm doing the moose. So I'm just going to go around and distress my edges for my image. Now you could also take these little sayings and words, little pictures, and use them as pockets or tucks in your journals. Whatever you wanted. I grabbed some other things in my one that I did last year. I get it to pick up in my hands. This silver is actually some garland. I'm not sure if I got it at like the Dollar Tree or if it's a million years old, but it's not very good. It's very, I don't know, just not a whole lot of the sparkle there, so I cut some up and put it on there. But I think I am going to take some cheesecloth and maybe back that a little bit, maybe with some cheesecloth. What you guys thinking? Thinking yes? You thinking no? You thinking I lost my mind because I probably did a long time ago? All right, let's cut. Let's see what we do. So I don't think I'm going to use this whole piece that I'm cutting, but I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I need to get this big bulk of it out of my way. If you have a hard time finding cheesecloth where you're at, you also have the option of like gauze. It has very much the same consistency. Just kind of as a different idea, different route for you to go. So I'm going to trim that down. I think I'm going to put, I like my moosey guy in the corner. I don't know why, but I'm filling him there. I'm going to cut this down a little bit. So let's see. Put that there, kind of pull that out. Maybe add some, you know, just some interest, some sparkly. I have some, yeah, eyelash trim. Could not think of what that was called. I'm thinking maybe some of that. I don't know. I don't think I'm liking that as much. So let's go back to just the cheesecloth for right now. I had some gold eyelash trim not too long ago, but I have no idea where it's at. So that's why we're not using that today, because I can't find it. So we're going to do that. Yeah, I'm sure you guys could think of something so much more creative than what I just did, but that's because you guys are awesome. I'm going to use some of the tacky glue. And I'm going to go lightly around the edges, well, as lightly as I ever do anything. But I want to go a little heavier in the center, because this is what's going to tack down the cheesecloth as well. So we want it to have enough to go through the cheesecloth and onto the cover itself. All right. So got it fairly well covered. Let's see what kind of mess I can create. Oh, woohoo, not too bad of a mess. A little bit, behave. Behave. That is one thing with that score, or not the score tool, the embossing tool, is that I have really had to learn to try to be easier on my glue because it will really squeeze it out. All right, so there is our cover. At least my cover, that's what I'm doing. It's not super fancy. I may end up putting, like, writing the year up here because that would be cute. I think I'm going to go ahead and come back to my pockets and I'm going to trim off this excess along both sides, like so. Here's the one with the belly band, not a body band, but a belly band. Now, what I did on that one is, since I had these little cutoffs, is I made a little corner tuck with the piece. So that's where that piece came from. Let's see, I'm going to arrange my signatures somehow. I don't know how I want to do them. All right, well, I'll fuss with this later. I'm going to have to take it apart anyways to distress all the edges. Just make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got one more than I need. It would help if I had them all in the right direction. All right. So all I'm going to do here is a pamphlet stitch, and I am going to completely cheat. I'm not going to use any form of template, nothing like that. I'm just going to eyeball where I'm going to put them. So I'm going to come in, put a dot there, put a dot there, and I want one in the middle. I did not grab anything to puncture my holes with while I was up. Oops. I was going to use some baker's twine, but we'll get to that in a second. Since I didn't grab anything to puncture my hole, I'm literally just going to use my needle. This is probably not a smart idea, you guys. Don't do this. Because if you stab yourself, I don't want to hear the complaints. I will transfer you to my complaint department, and all they do is lose your email. Because I don't have a complaint department. So I'm just pushing my needle through where I'm going to put my holes. And by the way, this is really kind of hard since these index cards are pretty thick. Okay. I'm going to come back in. I'm going to kind of center it up on my cover as best as I can. And I'm going to go back through my holes to put my holes through my cover as well. Now the pamphlet stitch is our 3-hole stitch that I use a lot. Just because it's fairly easy, it holds really well. I don't have any complaints about it. All right. Here comes the fun part, trying to get my baker's twine and my needle. I thought that was going to be all impressive and get it the first time. It didn't. Nope. No. This can be so frustrating. All right, come on. Oh, it's behaving. Okay. On this one, I want the part that I'm going to tie it to be on the outside. So I'm going to start on my outside hole. All right, I tell you what, you guys don't need to see me sew in a signature again. You guys saw it in my last book, or my last video, which was the little golden book altered journal. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this for a second. And when we come back, I'll have this hopefully sewn in or stab myself in the eye with the needle, one of the two. Okay, well, I'm happy to announce I did not stab myself in the eye. Went ahead and sewn in my signatures. I made a little bow with the back. And I tied a couple little square knots just in the bottom of my baker's twine so my threads didn't all come untwined. So now we have this. I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, we need to put our bulb pins in here. What color do we want, guys? I got a couple Christmassy colors. Maybe red. I got a green one too. I think I like the red. It's a little more contrast. Like I said, you could put an eyelet in here if you wanted to. I'm just trying to keep it kind of simple this year. So all I'm going to do is right where my spine is again, I'm going to jab my needle through. No hitting my fingers. Ooh, good job. Secure that on. I feel like I'm about to get a delivery at the current moment. My dog just went running down the porch. Come on, work with me, fingers. So here's the little journal that we made with our little bulb pin right here. What you can do is you can spin it around on the inside if you prefer, however you prefer for it to be. I don't know, I kind of like the shape of that. It reminds me of like, okay, it's a bulb pin, but it reminds me of like Christmas lights. I know. So right on the nose. I have our ribbon. Guys, now we're down to the question. Did I put my signature in upside down when I sewed this in? The way that I did my cheesecloth is it's still going to kind of want to pull and you might lose some threads. I kind of prefer that look. I may end up adding a little more glue down here to secure it, but for right now I kind of want to play with it and see where it ends up. Woohoo! At least that one's not upside down. So then we have our pockets. Now I need to go around and distress all these edges. We have another little pocket. And then there's our back. So there is our little Christmas tree ornament, little gift, whatever it is you want to do with it. As you can tell from the one past year, it's a little bit more of an elaborate cover. It has that tree garland. It's a green piece of fabric back here, but it's real thin, so it's real easy to kind of pull apart. This is cheesecloth. I have a book page behind there, some lace. When you open it up, you have your, oh, and I put little corner pieces. I don't know, I kind of started getting that feeling like this went way crazier than I needed it to be. That's why I simplified it a little bit this time. Oh, my glue came undone right there. Vera, I don't know if you'll watch this, but that was made by one of those doilies you sent me a long time ago. So just so you know, I've used it and love it. This was a belly band, but instead of cutting the excess off, I just made it into a tab, sorry. This was a scrapbook paper pad that I got from Michael's last year. I'm not sure if they still have it or what they have this year because I have banned myself from going there. So this is my journal from last year. Here is the journal that we made this year. Hope you guys all have a great time. If you guys are part of Facebook Paper Lifer group, then you guys will have that printable. If you're not, go join us. If y'all don't want to, then just grab some scrapbook paper. But I'll see you guys all next time. Oh, if you guys watched my altered golden book, you guys saw how I painted the fabric. I had a scrap of that left over, so one of the ones I'm doing is using that as the cover. I'm hoping that it comes out cute because it, you know, I don't know, put a little something on there. All right, guys, I'll see you all later. Subscribe. Come find us on Facebook. Insert all the other things I'm supposed to be saying. You guys have a great day.